What's going on, FA Nation? Happy Friday. John was the man in the playbook today. Matt Sells, we thank you for producing, is behind the camera today. And we have an eight-game slate here on Friday, John, and you were the man writing all of those words, typing all those words to everyone about playing James Harden all over your playbook.
Yeah.
I didn't spoil any surprises. I'm sure everyone knows Chris Paul has been ruled out against the Phoenix Suns. So we are getting peak James Harden tonight. John, other than James Harden, how you feeling about the playbook tonight? And what's going on, brother?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of matchups that I like. The problem is we have like 6 of the 8 games with double-digit point spread, it seems like.
Right.
So we have to deal with potential blowout situations in pretty much all of the games tonight. So that's a little bit worrisome. That being said, I still feel there's some good opportunities to stack certain games and take advantage of some matchups. So I'm ready to dive in, whenever you are.
Yeah, especially for cash games, it's always worrisome when you have spreads like the Lakers are 12-point dogs, the Kings are 10-point dogs, the Knicks are 13.5-point dogs. So it's always a little worrisome for cash. And the worst part is they're all viable tonight, kind of like
Right.
Knicks. We have Knicks value that we want to play, and that's because of some injuries. And let's just obviously start off. We mentioned on the podcast last night we suspected LeBron would sit. That
Yep.
is for sure the case tonight. He is out. Ben Simmons is going to play. Anthony Davis has been ruled out. We alluded to Chris Paul being out already. He is out just for rest purposes. Otto Porter is going to play. Zach LaVine is going to play. Danilo Gallinari still questionable. Mo Harkless is out. Rudy Gay is expected to play. Trevor Ariza is a game time decision. Dennis Smith Jr. has been ruled out. Tyler Johnson has been ruled out. Cody Zeller has been ruled out. Reggie Bullock is probable. Josh Hart is questionable. And Dwayne Wade is also questionable. So we do have like most of our significant injuries. We are still waiting on a couple. Like Gallinari could make a little bit of difference. But I know we have some words to give to the great people
Yeah.
of FA Nation, John.
Well, I mean, it's just the fact that we're crushing it and everything. And again, we have limited time numbers of lifetime memberships still going on. We've been touting, the fact that you can buy the MLB playbook and get the NFL playbook included. Well, we also have lifetime memberships going on. Fantasy Alarm has limited amount left. We're crushing it in DFS for the 11 sports that Fantasy Alarm covers. I didn't know we covered 11 sports. Did you know we covered 11 sports? It's a lot of sports. A lot.
Um, I mean,
Count them
just
out. It's like there's too many.
I was trying to think. I know.
But
Math. No.
yeah, not good math. We try to do that live. Never works out well for either of us. For example, in MLB, you get the Jim Button draft guide, ultimate cheat sheet, complete in-season coverage, including League Sync, to help you win all your seasonal leagues. Plus, we have complete DFS coverage with playbooks, rankings, optimal lineups, over 30 tools, including a lineup generator that supports 6 DFS sites. We're also in live chat 12 hours a day to help you with your personal questions about your draft during and in the season. Plus, lifetime members get special contests, swag, and other perks. I'd like to know what those are, where I can get involved to get some special swag and perks as well. Go to fantasyalarm.com/forever now to check it out. That's fantasyalarm.com/forever. And you play once, winner for life. So it's a great deal. Join us. I know a lot of you listening, watching, have already bought the lifetime package. No better chance to jump on now.
With that, John, we have a 8-game slate to talk about. So let's just dive right into the point guard
Sure.
position. Up top, we have Damian Lillard, Ben Simmons, Kemba Walker. How are you breaking that down? Knowing Simmons is in, Kemba has a good matchup against a Washington team that he's destroyed this
Right.
year, and Damian Lillard could have the best matchup of them all, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, Lillard's got the Elf Pate matchup, which we love attacking. He's one of the worst defensive players at the point guard position all season long. In 2 games against Pelicans this year, Lillard's averaging 45 fantasy points. So, again, the matchup's just too nice. The problem is now, whereas before I felt, last night when we did the podcast, we talked about it, like Harden wasn't as much of a lock as he was
Right.
on this slate. So now it's like, if you're going to be spending up the money on Harden, it's going to be very difficult to pay for Lillard and some other guys. Like, you're really going to have to get that value, find that maneuvering. So as much as I love Lillard and I love Kemba Walker in this matchup against Washington, a team that he's averaging over 50 fantasy points against on the year. You're really going to have to almost do a stars and scrubber approach tonight, I think, to pay up at point guard, and then also make sure you get Harden in your lineup, because in my opinion, it's a very risky choice to fade James Harden tonight. Obviously, in DraftKings, you can play Harden at point guard if you want to. He fits into that mold as well. And it's not to say that, again, that I don't like Lillard, I don't like Walker, because I do. I like them a lot. I think they're in really good spots. You're just going to have to risk, a possible 100-point game here out of Harden. And Phoenix, who's been scrappy lately, then they've actually beaten the Warriors in Golden State. They've beaten Milwaukee at home. And they've been double-digit dogs in those games as well. Who knows? Now they're going against basically a one-man show there in Houston. Maybe they're able to keep it as close, and you get peak Harden too. So again, like Lillard, like Walker, not much on Simmons. I know, again, this matchup against the Aaron Fox is one that we love to attack. But you're also getting now a Philly team that is going to be a whole. Like, Butler's going to play, Harris going to play, Embiid's going to be there, Simmons is going to be there. That could be an interesting spot where someone's going to lose value there. So I don't really want to pay the tag on Simmons with a full roster there for Philadelphia. If I'm spending up at point guard, it is Lillard and Walker, and then it's sort of the mid-tier for me.
Well, let's talk about some of the mid-tier guys that you have written down in the playbook. I think Elfrid Payton stands out like a sore thumb tonight, especially considering the games he's played. And now there's no Anthony Davis. You also have Derek White in that tier. Do you prefer one to the other? And, how would you play one in cash, one in GPPs? How would you break that down?
Yes, I'm a big Derek White mark. I've pretty much talked about him seemingly all year long, it seems like. He's just coming on super strong for us right now. 44 fantasy points against Dallas the other day. He had 54 against Atlanta, 41 against Denver. The problem here, again, is that huge point spread and the fact that I think we looked at it last night. San Antonio has a back-to-back tomorrow, right? They play again on Saturday. And I know we looked at the numbers, and guys like White, DeRozan, and Aldridge all still played strong games in back-to-backs. They weren't really limited as much. But you still have to wonder, it is going to be a back-to-back. If they do go up by 15 to 20, is White going to continue to roll out there and play the minutes? So for me, initially I considered White more of a cash game play, Payton more of a GPP play, but I always feel like those things might be reversed now. Knowing that Anthony Davis is out, I actually think Payton could be more of a cash games play. We talk about it all season long, how he has that sort of triple-double upside. He's like a mini Rajon Rondo, fills up the stat sheets. Well, no Drew Holiday now in the lineup, but he's had to do more. And he's gone for 50 fantasy points in back-to-back games, triple-doubles in both of those games. Lillard's not a great defender. They get the home matchup. So I think Payton's probably the safer of the two. But that said, I still love them both for their potential upsides here.
Yeah, sometimes we just let the slate dictate who we play in certain formats, and that just kind of seems where we're at with Elfrid Payton. Just considering everything, there's no Pelicans. There's really no one else to play the point guard position, and he's going to have the ball in his hands pretty much 100% of the time. When we move down to the value tier, we kind of lost out on the Ish Smith value that you had in the playbook because Reggie Jackson is starting. But we do have arguably the chalkiest play. James Harden is the chalkiest play. But when we move past James Harden, Emmanuel Mudiay kind of seems like the guy that will be, paired with Harden in essentially everyone's lineup. And we're playing him in all formats, right? He's $4,200 on DK and only $4,800 on FanDuel.
So I'm definitely with you there. Mudiay is going to if they haven't announced it already, he's likely the starting point guard tonight. He's playing a bunch of minutes as it is, and he's been killing it. I did again, this goes to kudos to our subscriber, Chad. Sometimes they point out ideas that maybe you and I overlook when we're, looking over at so many players. Maybe they recalled Kadeem Allen from the G League. And if you remember, when they were down to one guard, when it was just DSJ or whatever, Allen played a lot of minutes off the bench and was very good. Obviously, Mudiay got healthy, DSJ was there, and they just discarded him and sent him to the G League. Now that he's back, does that worry you at all with Mudiay? I feel like, based off how his role was prior, he still should have a role as the backup guard playing 20-ish minutes a night. I think Kadeem Allen's a very interesting GPP pivot off Mudiay because we know at times Mudiay sucks. And if they could just go to Allen, who's proven to be a good player this year, went down to the G League and was playing 38 minutes a night. So it's not like he's rusty So I have some interesting GBP thoughts there, right, with Kadeem Allen, but I think both Knicks guards are in play.
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it on the head when you said it's an interesting GPP pivot. Like that's exactly what he is. You play Moody and Cash, but if you're making multiple lineups, why not take the dart on Kadeem Allen for a punt? One more punt I'll throw at you, and I asked you before live stream, and you didn't seem like you were too interested. But if DeAnthony Melton starts tonight, do you have any interest at all? He is very, very free. He's $3,100, and there's no Chris Paul defense. And we saw earlier in the year he was pretty good peripherally. Like he's not a good scorer per se, but he's very good in the steals department. He's okay rebounder. He's a good passer. Like any interest in DeAnthony Melton? I mean, they're literally asking us to play him at the price tag he currently is.
No, I mean I agree. It's just that while he's been decent peripherally, like he never really did anything like fantasy wise. Like we started him and we're for the most part like yeah he had a game here and there where he did well, but for the most part we didn't want to ever have to play him. We sort of dreaded the idea of him in the starting lineup. I again feel like I may actually have more interest in possibly playing Kadeem Allen and like risking his because he's only $3,300 on DraftKings, right. $200 more than Melton, and I think they're both mid price over on FanDuel if I remember correctly. Allen is also mid price. I mean, for FanDuel, I think I'd still take the risk because we've just seen the offensive upside Kadeem Allen brings to the table there. So I'm probably off Melton in this spot. I just I haven't seen enough, and there's too many other guys right now in Phoenix that even if Melton's on the floor, like the ball's going away from him. So not there on Melton tonight.
Just want to throw it out there.
Out there too. He didn't make the playbook, but with Ish Smith kind of off the board here, I still think Satoransky fits in well in that mid tier. Probably safe cash games playing again. These two teams have played enough against one another that we've seen some decent production out of him.
Yeah, and attacking Kemba is always financially sound. Right. So let's move over to shooting guard. We have a lot of good options, and we're back to like really a strong shooting guard position. We've kind of been away from that the last couple of days. Mm-hmm. I don't think we need to.
I did too many shooting guards today.
Right. But I mean, like you said, with Harden point guard eligible, you could play 4 of them potentially, 5 of them, honestly. Yeah. I don't think we really need to delve into James Harden being the top play, other than saying he is the top play of the slate, right? Like that's
I'll point out that he has a 44% usage rate. He's averaging 1.77 fantasy points per minute this year, with Chris Paul off the floor. So do with what you will with that information. There's a reason why when Paul was out earlier this year, you and I just like pounded people to death. Like you absolutely cannot fade the James Harden chalk. Right. We have him projected at 55% on FanDuel. If he goes for 70, 80, 90 fantasy points tonight and he's not in your lineup, you lose. Like it's just what it is. It's like last night, 6-game slate, Kyrie Irving went for like 68. He was 55% owned. If you didn't own him, you pretty much didn't cash. So like there are guys that on certain nights with the chalk dictates the matchup and everything there is adding up. You live and die by it. So James Harden for sure. You just have to roll with it. It sucks that they force your hand, and this is what we talked about a lot. Was that their shooting guard is often so deep, but we were forced to play James Harden. And we're in that situation again tonight because, again, it's a lot of good other shooting guards that are almost too expensive to play because you have to fit Harden in your lineup.
Well, let's just break down some of them in case, you want to pair one of them with Harden. You, for whatever reason, decide to fade Harden. We don't suggest doing that tonight, but if you are in the minority doing so, we have guys like Bradley Beal. We have guys like DeMar DeRozan, Devin Booker, and Zach LaVine, all over 8,000 across the board. It's a really good position. I mean, DeRozan's in a smash spot, coming off really good games. Devin Booker has been super consistent since the All-Star break. How do you break down this next tier? Bradley Beal is a lock for 50. We've been saying it for like a month. Like it's 50 plus every night.
The other day.
How do you break down this next tier? Who's cash viable? Who's just for tournaments? Talk to us, John.
Yeah, I mean, before the Chris Paul news came last night, you and I were talking about actually playing Beal over Harden because he's gone for 60 fantasy points in 2 of the last 3 games. You're basically sort of getting that production out of Harden when Paul's on the floor. It's around like 55, 60. Yeah, occasionally he'll blow up and give you 90 like he did like 2 weeks ago. But for the most part, he's sitting in that range. And Beal's like on that level when it's basically just him running the show. He's had a lot of success against Charlotte tonight. you can pivot down to Beal tonight if you feel, you like your roster build. Again, it's just more about the upside that we see. We know the potential with Harden, but if this game does get blown out, like we said, it's a 13-point spread, and Harden plays 32 minutes tonight and gets you 68 or 70, and you can go down and save $1,700, and Beal gives you 65. Well, then you're probably winning because you're saving that extra money that you can spend up elsewhere. It's just a risk. You're basically just betting against Harden going for 80 plus. Is basically what you're doing. And it's just, the matchup for Beal's great. Like I said, he went for 67 against Charlotte. Two times ago they played at the end of February. Went for 67 fantasy points. Just a difficult fade. DeRozan's balling right now. Went for 53 fantasy points against the Knicks, their first meeting, coming off the 50-point game as well. This, again, just a blow-up potential. There's the back-to-back you worry about. So GBP only play for me. I like Booker in all formats. I think even if this game gets a little out of hand, he's still going to play. And if this game stays close, it's likely because Booker's the one keeping him in there. So definitely like Booker. And, again, he's gone for 60 recently as well. The upside that he brings to the table is pretty tremendous. And then Levine, coming back from injury, gets his matchup against the Clippers. He was playing really well. Again, he's only missed 2 games. I know Otto Porter playing tonight, will take a little bit away. I would have felt better if Porter was ruled out, knowing that Levine could kind of have that offense more to himself. But I still think he has, 40, 50-plus upside in this matchup against the Clippers. So those 4 guys, even though they're expensive, all fit really well in the lineups if you're going to go the fade Harden route.
So we have some interesting lineup notes, okay? Now, the Houston Rockets, and a lot of people were, suspecting Austin Rivers would be the starter, but that's not the case. They are starting James Harden at point guard, and they are actually reinserting Daniel House into the starting lineup. And we saw House basically start for the first half of the year before the whole G League fiasco. Right. So that's interesting. And Trevor Ariza is going to play tonight and will not be on a minutes restriction. Yeah. Just so we are up to date on our Rockets, because, Austin Rivers was getting a lot of love across the industry, and I still think he's fine, but I think it is very intriguing to see Daniel House re-enter the starting lineup. Let's go down the shooting guard position, where you list Buddy Hield basically as your favorite mid-tier option, along with Damian Dotson, and then Dion Waiters and KCP are your value guys. Let's talk about those 4 guys, and if you have anyone else you are looking at the shooting guard position.
Yeah, I mean, Hield for me, coming off a huge game the other night, played really well against Philadelphia earlier this year. I know you and I talk about a lot, and you always worry about jump shooters on the second nights of back-to-back, and they had to travel from Boston to Philly. So for sure there's, risk involved there, but, they've been a scrappy team all season long. And, Hield, again, this is a case where if Sacramento stay keeping this game interesting, keeping it close, it's like because Hield's shooting the lights out. Again, he's a GPP only play. I'm not saying build your lineups around him tonight. It's just you're going to try to find some upside in this mid-tier range of shooting guard. I think he's someone that brings it. I think a lot of people will be on Damian Dotson. I know that our projected ownership is low on him, but I mean, with no Dennis Smith Jr., it's going to shorten their guard rotation. Dotson's playing over 30 minutes a night as it is, and he's been very productive out of it. So I like him tonight, even against San Antonio. He went over 30 fantasy points over the last 5 games. And he went for 42 fantasy points in the first meeting against San Antonio this year, and scoring 27 actuals. So I think he's a strong play. I was more on Waiters with the likelihood or the questionable status of Dwayne Wade, but Wade was just ruled active tonight. So I'll downgrade Waiters a little bit. Like, he's still starting. He's still going to play probably close to 30 minutes, but I just always like it when someone's out of that guard rotation for Miami. There's so many guys in there that it kind of takes shots away. So downgrade Waiters a little bit. Again, he wasn't a core, GPP player, but he's a guy that can give you a little bit of upside. And then, I'll go to Caldwell Pope, no LeBron James. We saw him start before when no LeBron James was in the lineup. I think him and Reggie Bullock are both guys that could be interesting options tonight. Josh Hart could be a guy as well. Like, the offense in that rotation is going to be interesting without LeBron. And I also love revenge narratives. You're getting both KCP and Bullock against their former team. So I think they're both interesting spots here at shooting guard.
Let's move on to small forward, where Giannis tops the list with no LeBron. And he gets a pretty tough Miami defense, but he is projected to be pretty highly owned. Do you like Giannis? And if not, even if you do, where are you going at the rest of the position? Because this is just a position that once again is just now without LeBron, we're just
Yeah.
really lacking a lot of options, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, it's not pretty. I am not playing Giannis because I am playing Harden. And you really have to get superstars and scrubs if you're going to try to fit Giannis and Harden in the same lineup. It's not to say that you can't pivot off Giannis for Harden. That's fine. Again, he has an upside of, 70, 80 points. We've seen it. It's just not something I'm doing tonight against Miami, where he's actually struggled against them this year. If we are looking for some other options, if Gallinari plays, we probably won't know that in time for FanDuel players, but on DraftKings, if Gallinari plays, I have interest. I like Otto Porter Jr. in that matchup against the Clippers. I like Nick Batum, here against Washington, knowing that the likelihood is that Lamb will go back to the bench now that Batum is back in the lineup, and that obviously opens up things the way we've seen of late, where Batum has been playing really well with Lamb coming off the bench and him kind of by himself in the starting lineup. I was hoping Trevor Ariza was going to be ruled out. It turns out he's going to play tonight and have no minutes limit, as you said. So you can play Ariza if you want. That's fine. I had more interest in Jabari Parker. With that injury news potentially hanging over us, I'll still go Parker in GPPs tonight, though. I think the upside has been really solid, and he's sort of been playing better than Ariza of late, or at least more consistently of late. So he's fine for me as well. And then we have the Mo Harkless news that he's been ruled out tonight. So I don't mind going back to Jake Layman, who's sort of already in the rotation as it is, playing around 25-plus minutes a night. Just taking him out of that rotation could lead to more minutes for Layman. I know Evan Turner could be thrown in that mix. Rodney Hood could be thrown in that mix too, but Layman's at least seeing the more consistent role of that group. So he's 3,300 on DraftKings, 3,700 on FanDuel. So looking for some cheap value there. And then a guy that we have projected to be pretty high ownership tonight is actually Gerald Green. And seeing that starting lineup the way it is with Gordon in the lineup, with House in the starting lineup, makes me think that Green's going to be like the first man off the bench, first shooter off the bench. And we've seen Green have some decent upside at times, coming off the bench for them. So I don't mind Gerald Green here as a min-price option as well.
What about House? Any love for House?
He was okay as a starter. I don't love him. He's another mid-price punt play, so sure. Like if you want a guy that's in the starting lineup versus Gerald Green off the bench,
FanDuel, right? It's probably a FanDuel.
FanDuel, yeah. And I would just like the guy who's been playing at the NBA level than the guy that's been in the G League. So I think the reason that Green's not in the starting lineup is they want him to be that scoring threat for the second unit. So not that Harden's going to come off the floor anyways, but I would go Green over House.
Okay, that's fair. I just, we need to throw it out. I do have interest in Kendrick Williams with Anthony Davis out slightly, just for tournaments. But
I like Oubre too. I didn't mention him, but Oubre also strong play. I think averaging 36 fantasy points over the last 5. Went for 38 against the Rockets in their first meeting. I think the Suns are a sneaky stack play tonight. Maybe not sneaky, but it's not often you take the team that's getting 13 points in a matchup as a stack. But they just have a lot of good scorers in their lineup. So
plus, there's no official word if Melton will start. It's just projection. Maybe they just say, hey, play Booker. You move over from shooting guard to point guard, and then they slide Kelly Oubre into the starting lineup, which obviously would boost his value even more. Let's go to power forward, where LaMarcus Aldridge is probably the top option, but then we have Julius Randle with no Anthony Davis. Yeah. So I guess that has been like a popular question today. I've seen it like 4 or 5, 6 times in chat. Just asking, do we want to play Julius Randle or do we want to play LaMarcus Aldridge? It's a very tough question, but no Anthony Davis probably, I don't know how you feel, but probably has me leaning Randle slightly.
Yeah, so Randle didn't make the playbook because Anthony Davis wasn't ruled out yet. Right. But as soon as that news happened, Randle made a lot of the lineups that I put out. Now he hasn't been hasn't shown that high ceiling that we've seen from him at times this year of late. And that includes that game against Toronto in which Anthony Davis didn't play. He only had 37 fantasy points in that game, 6 for 15 shooting. He had 18, 9, and 7 in 32 minutes. So maybe that's just a little bit worrisome. And we got news that Okafor is going to start. But again, I'm not too worried about that. Okafor started last time when Davis was out, did absolutely nothing. So I like Randle still. I think the upside potential is there for him in this spot against Portland. we know the usage rate is through the roof with him. There's no Drew Holiday, so I'm still going to use Randall tonight. I wish we saw more 50-point games lately than we've seen mid 30-point games lately, but I mean we just know that upside's there. So if we're looking at power forwards at this spot, I like him, and I think we can go back to Diallo. Diallo played 24 minutes against Toronto when AD sat the other night, and he went off again. He put up 32 fantasy points, 16 points, 12 rebounds. So I mean, when Anthony Davis plays, Diallo gets downgraded. When he's out, I mean, we're going to see 20-plus minutes out of him, I think. And I think they're sort of over the Okafor experiment as it is. Like, Okafor was really only putting up a bunch of numbers when both Randall and Anthony Davis were out of the lineup. So I'm not – while he's starting, it's not like I'm expecting too much out of him. He only played 17 minutes in that game, which AD sat. So for me, it's Randall and Diallo at power forward tonight for the Pelicans.
If Danilo Gallinari is ruled out, do we play JaMychal Green or Check Diallo? Who would you prefer from the value tier?
That's a good question. I think it would depend on what we're expecting for minutes, and the fact that Green played 32 minutes the other day makes me like him more. I would say Green becomes a cash game play, and Diallo would be the GPP play.
I agree with that. That's exactly how I would envision it as well.
You can use Green and GPPs for sure, but if you had to designate one to the other, that's how I would decide.
Agreed. Let's talk about your mid-tier. You have Montrezl Harrell, you have Bobby Portis, you have Kyle Kuzma. How would you break that down? Any of them viable for cash? I mean, one has no LeBron James, so maybe it is a 12-point spread, but do we have any cash interest there, or all three just tournament plays for you?
I have Kuzma in all the lineups across the board tonight. I just feel like that they're going to just feed him the basketball. I don't think that we're going to have to really deal too much worrying about his minutes. They've already proven that they're not going to put him on any sort of minutes limit. So that being said, I just feel like we're in a strong spot here with Kyle Kuzma. The matchup isn't the greatest. He's going to have to go up against, going one-on-one against either Blake Griffin, or he's going to have to deal with Andre Drummond if he tries to go to the rim. But he's averaging over a fantasy point per minute with LeBron James and Ingram and that whole crew off the floor this year. So for me, he's a really strong play. I like the price point as well. And he's been okay of late. I know last night, wasn't his greatest game. He went shot 3 for 11, but that wasn't a great spot for him really either, with Siakam and Kawhi playing defense. But I think there's a better spot for him here tonight, and we know that he's going to play the minutes. So I like Kuzma a lot. Bobby Portis, again, one of my favorite GPP plays. He just absolutely takes it to Charlotte every time he plays them. He had a 33-9 game against them when he was a member of the Bulls. He had a double-double a game before that when he was with the Wizards. So I mean, for me, I'm just a big fan of Portis, and he just played against them, had 41 fantasy points, went for 23 and 9. So the only one thing, the reason why he's a GPP play and not a cash games play, is Thomas Bryant occasionally gets into a game that Portis struggles and just goes off. So I don't want to stick him in my cash games lineup and then watch Bryant go for 50. But Portis strong play here. We made a lot of money attacking Charlotte this year at their front court.
All right, John, we have a question. 2 questions, okay? I'm going to just rattle them off. Both from our man, Kangas Man.
Okay.
Kangas Man, right. Eric Gordon or Damian Dotson?
That's a good question. I think I would go with Dotson there.
Bobby Portis or Montrezl Harrell? Fresh in our minds.
Yeah, I do Portis.
Is from W. Wafuda Diek 92. Is House cash viable in DK tonight?
No.
Okay. That's all for the questions right now. Let's move on to center. Let's wrap it up here. At the center position. Okay, so what are we going to do with Joel Embiid? Simmons is playing, but we still have to factor in Embiid is under 10K on DraftKings, and we still have to factor in it's the Kings, and we're now factoring in that he has 40% projection. I'm very interested after that updates what it'll be, because ultimately that's going to – so we got the update, and Joel Embiid is 39% still projected on DraftKings. Under 10K, which is a price tag that we just don't see anymore.
Right.
How, like, last night we called him to play of the slate, and obviously that was prior to the James Harden news.
Yeah.
Like, where would you rank him, I guess, in terms of, like, plays of the slate? Would he be 2? Would he be 3? Is he the top spend up at center still with Simmons back? Like, how do you break down Embiid? And if you want to just talk about the rest of the center position, that's fine too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's still fine. I mean, it's just I like it better when one of those guys are out of the lineup because we didn't just see like peak Joel Embiid. But he's been really good over the last 2 games. He's under 10K on DraftKings, as you said. FanDuel, obviously, he's more expensive where, he's a top center of the slate, priced out at 10.9. Again, if you're trying to pay up for Harden and these guys, it's difficult to pair them both up. But, yeah, I'm not going to knock down the matchup. I still think it's a strong spot for him here against Cauley-Stein, against Sacramento. So, again, if he's in your lineups, I'm not sitting here like being like, oh, man, what are you doing? I just don't know if we're going to get like 70 out of him, which was a possibility with Simmons out. They would have had to put like McConnell in at point guard, and they would have just thrown the ball probably to Embiid most of the time. So that's fine. Again, Embiid's solid. Same thing with Andre Drummond. Like, I love Andre Drummond in this matchup against the Lakers. I wish LeBron was playing to potentially keep this game closer because I'm not sure if that's going to hold true or not. So there's also risk there with Andre Drummond, but he talked about another good price over on DraftKings. Drummond's only $8,800, and he gets a spot, up against like JaVale McGee, who's not going to be able to handle him at all. So, again, both of those guys, strong payups if you're going to do it. You mentioned DeAndre Ayton. I do like him tonight as well. Clint Capella on the flip side, that should be a good matchup for both of them. They're playing strong basketball. The guy that I have like most of my lineups tonight, just for price point reasons, is Robin Lopez. The Clippers are allowing the most fantasy points. The centers right now, as it stands, Lopez is playing really solid basketball. Gets you exposure to that late night hammer. He'll have the size advantage over Montrezl Harrell. I know they're playing Zubac more, but more just means like 22 minutes instead of 18 minutes. So for me, I just have a lot of love Robin Lopez in my lineups because he's cheap and he fits the builds. On FanDuel, obviously on DraftKings, you can get a little bit more creative. Certain guys have center and power forward eligibility, and you can mix and match there. But I'm actually spending down to Robin Lopez at center tonight. If you want to go Zubac, that's fine. If you want to go, Pirtle, okay. If you want to go all the way down to Hernan Gomez, I've seen people ask about tonight with Zeller out. Like, sure, you can go that direction if you want. Again, trying to find some value to go stars and scrubs. But for me, Lopez just makes sense sort of across the board for all formats.
Does hearing that Willie Hernan Gomez is a highest projected owned player on DraftKings kind of sway you in any way? Like, if you weren't going to play him, because he didn't make the playbook. So I'm just asking, like, does that interest you any more than it did?
I mean, a little bit, I guess. I still like the thing is, like, he only played 24 minutes in a rather competitive game against Houston the other day, even with Zeller off the floor. So then if he played 35 minutes, it'd be a different story. We know what his upside can be, sure. I'm just questioning, their commitment to him because they've had opportunities to play him in the past and they haven't. Frank Kaminsky being active kind of takes away from some of that as well. So, again, if it's an ownership play, if you want to go in that direction, that's fine. He's just not somebody that, unfortunately, because he's somebody that I did like earlier this year, and when he was getting a lot of run, he just, 3 shots in 24 minutes. Again, I don't know. I don't think it's as good of a play despite the ownership. I think we're seeing all these mid-price guys get high ownership because a lot of people are going stars and scrubs tonight. So you're going to see a lot of Daniel House. You're going to see a lot of Hernan Gomez. You're going to see a lot of these guys because people want to stack, Harden and Beal or Harden or whatever. It's just a boomer bust lineup. So, do if you wish. I tend to play a little bit more on the reserve side. So it's all about how you feel.
All right, give me a cash core of like 3 or 4 guys that you're playing across the board. I mean, it may differ from FanDuel and DraftKings because price discrepancies, but 3 to 4 guys. How about this? 3 guys not named James Harden.
Okay.
For your cash core because it's Harden. Everyone knows it, but like 3 guys not named James Harden that you are pairing with him in cash.
Yeah, that's fine. So I have Robin Lopez at center, Julius Randle at power forward, and I really do think that Elf Payton's a pretty safe cash game play tonight. If the money doesn't fit for you because you're fitting Harden in there as well, I think you can go down to Satoransky. He works cheaper and he works. I think Zeus likes that play too.
I think Zeus is also intel Peyton and all the other guys that you have. But that is
Josh Hart ruled out as we're going off air, and so is Lance Stevenson. So Bullock and KCP are
KCP.
very much in play.
Yep, big minutes. Tournament plays only. Let's get out of here at that. It is 6:35. We have 25 minutes until roster lock. Matt Sells, thank you again for producing. We'll be in subscriber chat for the next 25 minutes. Starting five is out. Playbook is out. Optimal lineups are out. Good luck tonight, everybody. We'll catch you in the winner circle.